years ago, I took a job as an au pair for a family in the English countryside. I was 21, fresh out of school, craving something different from my monotonous life in the States. The family, Mark and Lillian, and their 6-year-old daughter Alice, lived in a beautiful old home just outside of Devon. The pay was good, room and board were included. It felt like the perfect opportunity, but almost immediately something felt off. The house was massive, Victorian, with high ceilings, creaky floors, and a constant draft even in summer. Alice was a sweet but unusually quiet girl, well-behaved, always polite, but I noticed she never wanted to be alone. She would follow me room to room, even when I went to the laundry or to clean. One evening, about a week in, I asked her where her toys were. She just looked at me and whispered, "I'm not allowed to play in the hallway anymore." I thought she was being dramatic. I asked her why. She hesitated, then said, "Because of the man behind the red door." I thought maybe she was talking about a nightmare, making something up, as kids do, but then I noticed it. At the end of the second floor hallway, there was indeed a door. Dark red, peeling, older than the rest of the house. It had a keyhole but no knob. I assumed it led to an attic or storage area, but it felt wrong. The air in front of it was cold, still, heavy. That night, as I lay in bed, I heard something that chilled me to the core. A slow knock. Not from my room, but from somewhere upstairs. 3 knocks, then silence. I tried to convince myself it was the pipes, old houses creak, but then I heard footsteps, bare footsteps, crossing the floor just above me. I knew no one slept on the top floor. The guest bedroom and Alice's room were on the same floor as mine. I got up, peeked out into the hallway. Nothing, but the red door was slightly ajar. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I asked Lillian about the door. Her face went pale. She smiled weakly and said, "Oh, that room's been sealed for years, just an old storage room. You don't need to go in there." I pressed a little more and she snapped, not angrily, fearfully, "Don't talk about that room around Alice." Over the next week, things escalated. I would find the door open when I knew it had been shut. Alice would wake up crying, saying she's standing by the door again.
And one night, I heard breathing just outside my bedroom door. Deep, wet, like someone struggling to inhale. When I flung the door open, no one. But the red door, it was wide open. I finally broke. I told Mark and Lillian I was scared that something was wrong with the house, that I needed to leave. Lillian didn't argue. But before I left, Alice hugged me tightly and whispered, "Don't look in his eyes. That's how he gets in." That line haunted me, still does. 2 months later, I received a letter in the mail, no return address, just a single photo, and showed the red door. Fully open. Inside, a figure in the shadows, just tall enough to almost scrape the ceiling. Its face was blurred, but its eyes, they weren't human. There was a note on the back, in a child's handwriting. "He knows your name now. I've never worked as an au pair again, and I never stay in houses with sealed doors."
A few years ago, I took an au pair position in northern New Jersey. The family lived in a massive house that had been in the mother's family for generations. They had 3 boys, ages 4, 6, and 9, and I was in charge of their daily routine, meals, and bedtime while the parents worked in Manhattan during the week. They were nice people, a little strict, especially about rules, but the pay was solid, and they gave me a private room with its own entrance. The only weird thing was their one rule: never go into the basement, ever. The mother, Danielle, made it very clear the basement was locked at all times and the boys weren't even allowed to talk about it. She told me it was moldy, full of asbestos, unsafe. That was fine with me. I didn't care what was down there. I wasn't being paid to remodel the place. But almost every night, around 2 or 3 a.m., I'd hear shifting sounds beneath the floor. Scrapes, dragging, sometimes even what sounded like soft weeping. I assumed it was old pipes or animals, but it felt off. One evening, the oldest boy, Thomas, pulled me aside. "If you hear it again," he said, "don't answer it." "What do you mean?" He looked toward the hallway, then back at me and whispered, "The basement tries to trick you. It pretends to be someone you know." I thought it was just a spooky story the boys shared, but that night I heard it again. Only this time it wasn't random noises. It was my mother's voice, soft, trembling, calling my name from the basement stairs. "Oli, please help me. I'm trapped down here." I sat straight up in bed, heart pounding. My mother lives 3 states away. There was no way she could be down there. Then came the knock. 4 slow knocks on the basement door. I crept out of bed, against every instinct, and approached the door. The voice came again. "Ellie, you have to let me out. It's dark." "I'm so scared." It sounded exactly like her, every inflection, every breath. But something told me that wasn't her. The door handle jiggled even though I knew it was supposed to be locked. Something on the other side pushed. Then, just as I was about to run, I heard another voice from behind me. "Don't open it." It was Tom's. He was standing in the hallway with his little brothers, all 3 in their pajamas, eyes wide with fear. He held a small toy rabbit against his chest like a shield. "They can't come out unless you open the door," he whispered. I nodded, backing away. The door went still. The voice stopped. The next morning, I told the parents everything. They didn't blink. Danielle looked at me and said, "We should have warned you. We had an au pair a few years ago who opened the door. She's the reason it started again." I quit that same day. To this day, I sometimes wake up at 2 a.m., certain I can hear my mother's voice calling from beneath the floor. I worked for a French family just outside of Geneva. The parents were diplomats, often traveling, and I was to care for their 5-year-old daughter, Camille. The house was elegant, tucked in the hills, full of antiques and old oil paintings. It felt like something out of a storybook. Camille was a quiet, artistic child. She spent most of her time drawing and singing to herself. I noticed she had only one toy she played with, a very old porcelain doll named Margot. Pale face, blue glass eyes, red velvet dress. She carried it everywhere. I once tried to move it from her bed while changing the sheets, and she had a full meltdown, screaming, sobbing, kicking. "I can't leave her alone," she screamed. "She gets angry when I'm not with her." Later that week, I was putting Camille to bed when she whispered, "Margot wants to meet you." I smiled awkwardly, playing along. "Well, hello, Margot," I said to the doll. Camille frowned. "No, not like that. She wants you to come to her room. The real room." That night I couldn't sleep. Around midnight I heard faint footsteps upstairs, on the floor above mine. I knew that was the attic. I grabbed my phone flashlight and tiptoed up the narrow stairs. At the top was a trapdoor I had never noticed before. It was ajar. Inside, the attic was filled with old furniture and broken toys. Dust floated in the air like ash. Then, I saw it. A dollhouse. Not just any dollhouse. It was a miniature replica of the family home. Exact, down to the paintings, the furniture, my own bedroom window. As I stepped closer, I realized something chilling. Inside the dollhouse were tiny versions of all of us. Camille, her parents, me, and Margot. But Margot's figure was 3 times the size of the others, towering in the miniature living room. As I leaned closer, I felt something shift in the attic. I turned and there she was, the real Margot, sitting upright on a dusty chair, her glass eyes no longer fixed but slowly turning to meet mine. And then she smiled. Her lips parted with a faint clicking sound, and I swear on my life, I heard whispering. I don't remember running down the stairs. I don't remember slamming the door or waking the family. All I know is I left that house at dawn and never returned. A week later, the mother emailed me asking why I left without notice. I almost deleted the message until I saw the photo attached. It was of Camille, standing in the attic, holding Margot, who now wore a tiny black version of my uniform. I never replied. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening. Truly, these weren't just bedtime stories. These were real accounts from people who stepped into someone else's home, someone else's life, and came out haunted by what they found. Being an au pair might sound simple. Free lodging, a little childcare, a cultural exchange, but sometimes you find yourself caring for more than just children. Sometimes the house itself needs watching, or worse, something inside it is watching you. Whether it was a door that should never have opened, a voice that mimicked someone you love, or a doll that somehow remembers your face, these stories remind us you never really know what's behind a family's closed doors, especially the ones that are locked for a reason. If these stories sent a chill down your spine or made you look twice at that old attic door, then do me a favor. Click like, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications for more true horror stories every single week. We've only just scratched the surface. And if you have ever had a horrifying experience as an au pair, a babysitter, or even just staying in someone else's home, I want to hear your story. Drop it in the comments below. You never know, your nightmare might be featured in an upcoming episode. Until next time, stay curious, stay careful, and if you hear your name being whispered from a locked room, don't answer.